All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Coleman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have my latest guest there in front of me. Áine, say hello to the listeners.
Dia díobh gach duine díobh go Coleman conas atá tú inniu.
Tá mé go maith, tá sé ag caint sa Gaelscoil for Bioga this podcast. So that's, I suppose, firstly where we met through the likes of social media, and not through Gaelscoil, a small bit. But I brought you on, I suppose. Tell us a little bit about, I'm going to say, I know you're into, I'm going to say, yoga and the benefits of it, and that can be the broad spectrum of what we're going to be talking about here today. And I want you to let us know a little bit about, I'm going to say, where your background, where you're based, and we kind of get off and hit off from there.
Yeah, no problem, Figerby. So in terms of where I'm based, first of all, I'm from County Clare, but I'm living up in North County Dublin. So it's important to mention that I'm a Clare woman. And I live and teach currently up in a little place called Rush in North County Dublin on the coast. So it's beautiful. I'm 2 minutes from the beach. So I get to do yoga on the beach quite often. I was recently teaching it on the beach and swim a lot on the beach. And in terms of what do I do, I'm currently a yoga teacher, and I also have a business which is called Guonia. So I guess I started off with Guonia back in 2020. And what is that? Guonia is a business where I teach the Irish language. So that's where I started. And I got to a place in my life where I said, okay, I want to, start working for myself. I'm diving into this now where I'm saying I'm a primary school teacher as well. So I just keep going with that.
Yeah, you were previously a primary school teacher for the most part. And tell us how you kind of transitioned from teacher to the likes of, with the current role that you have, much more flexible with the likes of your 16-month-old boy, toddler, we can call him, or baby. We were chatting about it before we started off here, and it's because there's a huge amount of people that would be in that teacher role that are literally maybe afraid to break kind of through, and that's kind of where I want to even just kind of maybe further expand on that point.
Yeah. Okay, so when I was in college, I qualified as a primary school teacher, but before that, I actually did my degree and master's in Irish and Gaeilge. And I did a translation course, so a higher diploma in Astrachan in Connemara. So there's translation involved as well in my qualifications. And I've always had a real passionate love for our Irish language. So I had that. And then I went to Mary I in Limerick and did primary school teaching. So I was a primary school teacher in a Gaelscoil, an all-Irish speaking school, until recently. And we began to explain, I got to a place in my life around 2020 where I said, okay, do you ever think, okay, there must be something more than this, in life. You're going to work. I love teaching. I adore children, but I just felt in my heart there was something missing. And teaching it's a tough job. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of paperwork involved and so much more, in terms of teachers' schools being under-resourced, understaffed, etc., etc. And I was finding it quite stressful and full-on and intense. So I said to myself, okay, I want to get to a place where I am my own boss. I am in charge of, say, my own income, the hours I work, and that work-life balance. So that is where Guonia was born, you could say, my first baby in 2020. I'm not tech savvy whatsoever, but I sat down one day I was living in New Zealand at this point. I was living there for 6 years, and I taught myself how to create a website, make a website, and that just kind of kicked off from there. I should probably say, what is Guonia? So Guonia, I'm an online Irish language teacher. So I started teaching some students over in New Zealand. So I currently have students, this is all online, and children and adults. Some students are leaving cert level who need to get an A1 and need top marks in their leaving cert. I have some who are junior cert. I yesterday had an 8-year-old boy who was just doing it for the love of the language. I have students, international students. So I have a number of students from America, different parts of America. They're all currently children, and they just say they might have great grandparents from Ireland, as you can imagine. And they were just so connected to the land and the culture and dancing and passionate about the language. So I have students living in Ethiopia and Ireland, and it's really opened the door for me to work my own hours, do what I love. I love is even the Gaelga. I'm so passionate about Irish and teaching as well. So I started doing that while I was living in New Zealand, but then when we moved home 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago, I went back to my job in the Gaelscoil. Had a beautiful baby boy who is now 16 months. Búta bucal biolgagum. And Tashi Andlocha. He's extremely cute. And then I guess I have Guonia, and then it's under Guonia, under the same umbrella, yoga le Guonia. So I started my yoga journey a couple of years ago as well. And have
Did you go far and far training in that, or how did you end up going and transitioning? Or had you been doing yoga previous to that all through your travels in New Zealand, or did you just pick it up there as of the last 3 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's an interesting question, actually, because growing up in County Clare, I never in my life came across yoga. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it just wasn't, I guess, in my vision. I was extremely sporty and played a lot of Gaelic football at a competitive level. And every sport I just try, I was lucky enough to be able to try everything, and then was really busy with Gaelic football. And when I moved to New Zealand, I had done a few hot yoga classes when I was teaching in Dublin. But if I'm perfectly honest, my intention behind the class was, I'm just going to go get a good sweat on and leave again. That was my intention behind that class. So the reason I do yoga now is totally different. In New Zealand, if I'm being perfectly honest, I went to one yoga class, and that was when I was in the depths of training for a bodybuilding competition. So my life is totally different now. So I think you'll enjoy this, Coleman. I was training for bodybuilding. I had a competition. I was a few weeks out. So, you're shredding, etc., literally eating chicken and broccoli and chicken and broccoli and chicken and broccoli. And yes, it was intense. The Áine now would never do it in a million years. So it's just interesting how life changes, when your heart is opened up to different paths. The one time I tried yoga was when I was injured. So I just needed to move my body. I said, I need to do some sort of training. And I saw on the gym timetable that there was a yoga class. So there was a yoga class on. So I said, okay, I'll go along to that. And I'm sure I'll sweat a little bit, or something will happen. And I remember exactly where I was. I was at the back of the class, and I was so bored in the class. I remember thinking, why do people pay money? It wasn't cheap, but why do people pay money for this, for what I'm doing right now? And people were around me breathing. You could hear people breathing, and I thought, God, that's a bit loud. But what's going on there? And now that's me, So, but what happened was I was at the back of the class so bored, and I said, this needs to be worthwhile for me. So I started testing myself and doing push-ups in the middle of the yoga class. And I can't remember what I got to, but that's my experience of yoga until I came home. Then it changed, and that's where I did my training.
That's so funny, Áine, that you say that, right? I would have been in such a similar mindset, and we resonate on so many different levels. Even you further expanding on your kind of story. Like I don't know, I actually even recorded telling people on this podcast previously. I've done one bodybuilding competition. I couldn't even remember. I think it was called Spring Classic. I didn't even really prepare for it properly, but I just said, I thought I wanted to be Arnold Schwarzenegger at the start of my own health and fitness journey. I was eating chicken, broccoli and rice. Why? Because that was the only thing I could kind of cook. And I didn't even put salt because I heard salt is bad for you. And again, this is just misinformation that I was reading or looking up on. Was it Facebook? Facebook was probably big at the time. I was on YouTube. That was the two things I was getting a lot of my information from. And just randomers in the likes of in the sauna, me trying to sweat out. And anytime that people would mention the likes of yoga or anything like that, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe, I couldn't literally.
So you get it.
You couldn't get it. Could not
Mm.
literally comprehend that you would sit cross-legged and start making loud noises from your nose. And I'm like, what is going on with that person? Do they have like nasal issues or what? It didn't make no sense to me. I was like, they literally keep 10 or 15 euros to literally sit down for a class and literally reach over to one side and reach over to the other. Where I'm like, I literally do that at the start of my training before the sessions that I'm going to be doing with a gym or GA itself.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can resonate with what I just said then.
Totally.
It's
Yeah.
incredible, isn't it?
And coming back to
Yeah.
the GA background as well. Mission.
Yes, exactly. And the GA, you're into your hurling, aren't you?
Yeah, I love a bit of gas. Love a bit of gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, and
Yeah.
that's it. And you played quite high in competitive and sports, if I'm correct in saying that.
When I was playing, I guess I just haven't gone back since I had my baby boy, and I'm not sure if I go back, I'll probably go back to GA for Mass, GA or Mud for Mothers and Others, and just chill with everyone. I feel like I'm channeling my competitive nature now into my business, and I'm channeling that energy in a different way now. So I was really lucky when I was playing football I have a number of county titles with my club at the time in Clare, and I played with my county with Clare. And then when I moved to Dublin, I transferred to the local club here in Rush, which is St. Moore's, and we were really lucky to win an All-Ireland final. I can't remember the year, 2020, no, not 2025, maybe 8 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but that for me was incredible. My father will remember the year, but I can't. So that was, when you work so hard and there's so much training. So it's just, I have wonderful memories. But for me now, like I said, my competitive Áine is more into, and I'm really, really feeling the benefits from my yoga journey, which really only started, I would say 3 years ago, which is hard to believe, 4 years ago.
What was the transition from you deciding to go into it and then get qualified? But tell me, what's the decision from going from competitive sports to from slowing down? Like where's the transition? I'm doing push-ups and you can do 50, you've done 40, and on the 30 you go down. And where did it come from there to where you are now?
Yeah. So I just listening to you asking that question, I just got a vision in my mind of me this was a couple of years ago when I hadn't started my training yet. I was in Connemara sitting on a rock on a stream, and I was listening to, I don't know if you like Enya. I love Enya. I was sitting listening to Enya. This is a true story. Wait till you hear it. Didn't really know much about yoga at the time. And I was sitting on the stream listening to Enya and just taking in the quietness. And I was going through something at the time. So just, you just need your own time. So I was sitting there, and something made me turn around. So I turned around and I saw a man with a dog, a beautiful big Labrador. I actually saw that dog today, or a similar dog, not the exact same one. But I started talking to the dog, and I'll never forget. I said, "Oh, what's your name?" Gorgeous. I just called the dog Gorgeous. I just remember the exact words that came out of my mouth. And then the man said his name was Yogi. So you know what a yogi is.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, this is how little I knew about yoga. I didn't know what a yogi was, but at that time. But Coleman, I spoke to the man for a few minutes and the dog, and we were just chatting, and then they needed me to move for them to be able to pass the stream without getting soaked, because I was on the only rock, So after chatting, they went on their way, and I immediately looked for my phone, took it out, and there's something about that word. Has something like this ever happened to you? The minute the man said the word yogi, like I have goosebumps now even thinking about it. I was just drawn to the words. And the dog just kept, even like when the dog was walking away, he kept like looking back at me, and I was like, what are you trying to tell me? Yogi, what are you trying to tell me? So this is all a true story. I looked up the meaning of yogi, and I was like, oh, a yogi is a person who does yoga. I remember when I used to do push-ups in my yoga class, that one yoga class. And believe it or not, 1 hour later, I had signed up to study and trained to become a yoga teacher. So it was just like a huge quantum leap for a leap forward into something that I had never looked up in my whole entire life. And here we are.
I tell you, you wouldn't see the like of that in a film or a book.
I know I could probably make some money out of it, actually. Yeah.
Great story. Oh my God.
So it's that evening I had signed up to become, because I was primary teaching, I had signed up to become, I did my kids yoga teacher training first of all with the most amazing teacher, Clare from Galway, but I did it in Dublin with her. And I then continued on, I was just doing it for me, just to figure out what the whole life of a yogi was, and thought it would help. Well, knew it would help with my teaching and children in school and mindfulness, etc., etc. And then I loved that and learned so much in that class, and thought to myself, oh my goodness, if I learned so much in like children's yoga teacher training, imagine what I could learn if I continue on and do my 200-hour yoga teacher training, which means you're trained and fully qualified to teach adults, teenagers, adults. And that just kept stripping back, like the layers and on an onion. You learn so much about yourself as well. So I'm qualified as a kids, adults, yoga teacher, meditation. And I did pregnancy yoga teacher training when I was pregnant. So that was really special because I got to be the student in a sense. I was pregnant, 30 weeks pregnant, during the training, and that was really magical for me. So that is where yoga Guonia came from, and that's what I'm working with at the moment. And with my teaching, as in primary school teaching in my Gaelscoil, I recently resigned, probably 2 months ago now. Resigned from that, which raised a few eyebrows, but it is, you have to live your life, don't you, Coleman? It's
I love that kind of quote where you can have anything in life, but you can't have everything. And the idea is you're picking a path which is so natural to you, that is a great story that you should write a book on that topic. If not, tell it on more podcasts, because that's very unique. And the idea is you are very unique, and the path that you have is your own, and you only ever have to tell your own story. And that's, I suppose, one of those key things. And look at you now, and it's all stepping stones. You were sitting on the river, on the rock.
Literally on the stone rock, yeah. I know.
That is the story in itself. Fill me in on, I haven't heard a lot about, I'm going to say, yoga for kids or children. Do you do that regularly, or is that something, tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay. So that's what I started out with. So as I was doing my teacher training for children, I used my little children and students at school, and so they loved it, because a lot of the time I was doing more yoga than teaching maths, for example. But I mean, there is so much learning in yoga. So what is the difference between yoga for children and yoga for adults? In a yoga class for children, you might be, for example, on a farm in the zoo, and you might be a crazy animal running around. So there you can create you still get your poses in, but it's fun. You might have a yoga disco. So let's say, for example, off the top of my head, if I started the yoga class, we might do 1 or 2 little bits of breathing, but it'll be fun. I might have, instead of saying we might say yum. So YUM, like something that's yummy. So for example, we might go around and say, oh my goodness, what's your favorite? What's your favorite food? And lots of kids might say ice cream, Uachtar Rocha or Milshawn. And just because I'm in a Gaelscoil, I was in a Gaelscoil, so everything was Oscuelga. So Milshawn, which is sweet. So when everyone would go around and say, this is what I love, then we would take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, we would say yum.
I think that's like, Jesus, things that the kids are doing, I would like to do, because I'm still a big...
Oh, you would really enjoy a yoga class. And then you might, for example, have your mats in a circle and put on I had some Paddington Bear music on when he was on a train, and we were going around on the train to a farm or to a zoo or whatever the theme is, to a beach. And if you're on a farm, for example, you can do your cash cow, you can do whatever it is, your cash cow, your tree, what else do you see, your bee, your phelicon, your butterfly, and you just make it fun. And it's really enjoyable, a lot of energy. and meditation as well. I actually recently, now meditation for children, it might be 30 seconds, it might be 2 minutes, and you work your way up, because for some adults, meditation, they're just being still. It can be so difficult.
And maybe I would
You
read
get
that
it.
doing the push-ups as well.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, or standing on your head or something. So it's quite literally baby steps. And a lot of the time I would have, I, at Easter, this Easter, I actually had a gorgeous PJ yoga and a few evenings of PJ yoga. So the children came, and I had maybe 15 children, and they came, it was, came in their PJs. It was nice and cozy. And I had my plan ready. I would always have my plan ready, but so often, like even in my Irish tutoring classes with children, it might go out the window. So a lot of the time, you go with flow. You go with the energy of the children, what they're telling you about. And I guess as I'm becoming more and more experienced, I'm blessed in the sense that I feel comfortable and competent and confident to go with the flow and just see what they bring. Mm.
And right, I'm going to kind of touch on it as well, different from the likes of the children's to the adults. What are most of your clients coming to you for? Maybe it could be massively varied. Is it pregnant, say individuals, maybe that's separate classes? Is it people looking to de-stress? Is it people looking to anything else in between? Or do you even move?
Good question. I guess I wouldn't know with everybody, but I would have a lot of people that would message to say, I need help with this. Could your classes help? So we were just speaking about children. I've had a number of parents message me saying, Áine, I'm just wondering if your class will help my daughter because she suffers from anxiety. She's 8 years old. One girl had, a few children I've had may have a stutter, and they, are really worried about it, self-conscious, and anxiety in children. It's quite high at the moment. It's shocking to see how common it is at the moment in young children's lives. And I've seen that with parents messaging me. And the beautiful thing is, I always get a message from those same parents after the class saying, oh my God, thank you so much. If whatever you're doing is working. So that for me it's magical, because that's why I actually originally started yoga leg with Áine. It was, I think, one of my first posts was about, I'm here, I want to share my light with children. Now I've since become an adult yoga teacher and adore teaching adults as well. But initially, it was all about children. Now having my own little baby, I'm so passionate about creating a safe space for children to say whatever they need to say, to be whatever they need to be, or whoever they need to be. And with adults as well, I guess adults will come for a number of reasons. Some people may not want to share, and other people I had a sunrise yoga class recently. I've had a few on, and also received really lovely, encouraging messages afterwards, and just saying just phrases like, that's exactly what I needed. Now, I may not have known what they needed, but they got what they needed out of the class.
I suppose your class is to try and touch on bases of the general audience, because it's not one-to-one yoga. It's literally a class of individuals, and it covers all the different, I suppose, reduced anxiety, improved on mental health, increased flexibility, and anything else. Mm-hmm. And even on that point, right, mental health, some people do use yoga for that in so many different cases, right? Is that something that you've found yourself, or is that something that you've either suffered with in the past, and now that yoga is kind of helping you or others?
Good question again. From my personal experience, so when I grew up, like I was saying, not to get back into it again, but growing up, I was so busy. Football, I went from football to basketball to swimming to speech and language, or not speech and language, what's it called? Speech and drama. Did you ever do speech and drama? Speech and drama to loads of different activities. So I was always on the go. And I guess I didn't have time to stop and think and even say, oh, how am I feeling today? And we live in such a busy, full on, intense world that sometimes doesn't allow you to stop and take a breath and say, oh, Áine, how are you? Or Coleman, how are you? And what I find sometimes, this happens to me, Do you ever, let's say, I'm just saying Tesco because I just thought of it there. It's where I live. So are you ever in Tesco or wherever you shop at your local farmers and someone says, "Hey, Coleman, how are you?" But before you get to answer, they're gone, So we're all rushing. We're all rushing. And what yoga has taught me, one of the things it's taught me is to slow down. And I mentioned when I was doing my training that it started to peel off layers of the onion, or my onion, as in myself. And I've spoken to a number of friends and who have done their training and have experienced the same. When you start to do your own work, and that's originally why I did my 200 hours. It was just for me. I genuinely remember saying at the beginning of my class, I'm never going to teach. I wouldn't be able to be a yoga teacher. I'm never going to teach, but I'm doing it now. I'm loving it. And just to get back to the topic of mental health, there have been times in my past and even nowadays where life is hard for a number of reasons, and especially as a stay-at-home mother, which is my choice. So my choice is to stay at home with my baby, raise my baby, and someone said, "Oh, what creche is he in recently?" And I just said, I wasn't joking. They laughed. I think they thought I was telling a joke, but I said, I am his creche. But I'm a stay-at-home mama. But I'm also a business owner. So even though I'm at home with him every day talking, etc., it can get really lonely. And a lot of people don't talk about that. And when I did my bodybuilding, the bodybuilding was, don't get me wrong, I'm happy I did it. When I was in the moment, when I was training, the Áine that did bodybuilding loved it. Áine now would run a mile from it. Because now I would be saying, what were you running away from? Why was I training nonstop all the time? And it's only when you go to do whatever it might be, but for me, it was a yoga teacher training, certain things might come up that you may not have, thought about in the past, and that you may need to grow from or heal from. And yoga has gifted me that. And there might be times when you're meditating and, so I've had one or two or a few people recently, after the meditation come up to me crying, which is really beautiful, and say, "Thank you. I actually haven't allowed myself to have time to stop and pause and just check in with myself." So yoga and mental health do go hand in hand. And I mean, we all have mental health, don't we? I mean, everyone's comfortable talking about physical health, but we have our mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, if you want to go there, financial health, and it goes on. So mental health, in order for us to be physically healthy, we need to check in and see how we are. And yoga has gifted me that. And just speaking of yoga, I'm just after thinking of the 8 limbs of yoga. Have you heard of that before?
No, having to fill me in, that'll be a great point to touch on here.
Can I fill you in? Because I think it just aligns quite well with what we are discussing. So this was a light bulb moment for me when I was doing my yoga teacher training. In my kids' yoga teacher training, I learned, or we touched on the 8 limbs, as in LIMBS, the 8 limbs of yoga. And I remember sitting on my mat saying, "Oh my God, I need to know more about this. What are the 8 limbs?" Okay, so I hope I get them in order now, but there are 8. We'll go in pairs. So basically, it tells us yoga is so much more than movement. Yoga is a way of being. And that's how I am doing my best to live my life, I guess every day. In the Western world, there's so much focus on the poses, the strength, be strong, and but there are actually 8 different paths to freedom, you could say, or to a harmonious, balanced life. The first 2 are the yamas. So these are Sanskrit words. So yamas and niyamas. The first one is all about how do you treat others? And by others, I mean, if I was in your company, how would I treat you? But how would you treat him looking at my garden? How do you treat nature? How do you treat the trees? Genuinely, how do you treat plants? Do you pick up your rubbish in the earth? Do you respect everything outside of you? just a brief description. So that's one layer, one facet of yoga. The second one, niyamas, goes back to your personal growth. So how do you treat yourself? Are you always looking for external stimuli to achieve happiness? Does that make sense? So can you be content with just who you are? And I mean, I think that's something we're all going to work on for our whole lifetime here on earth. Cleanliness, even speaking of just food, do you fuel yourself with, how is your nutrition? Are you eating organically? I mean, are you eating organically? Are you eating well? Are you eating clean food, nutritious food? So that is the second one. Then the third one, asana, poses. So we're, I'm sure, all familiar with poses, the yoga poses. And then we have pranayam, breath work or breath control. And the third and fourth one, yoga poses, asana and pranayam, we need them to, the reason behind these are we need them to prepare us for a deeper level of yoga, which is meditation. So as we go on, we still have a few more to go through, haven't we? We've done 4. The 5th one is with the withdrawal of senses. Pratyahara. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I might have a yoga teacher message me and say that's wrong, Áine. But that's the withdrawal of senses. So when we withdraw, let's say you close your eyes, you're not eating, etc. You're not listening to anything. It's about going inwards. So do you see where we're going with this? We're slowly, the poses actually prepare us for breath work, or they work in union. They're synced together. And then if we, let's say, close your eyes if you're sitting down, you're preparing yourself for the next stage, which is meditation, dharana. Again, forgive my pronunciation if that's incorrect. And then samadhi, which is enlightenment, or in my everyday life, for me, I would see that as being freedom. So yoga is not just the poses. And to be perfectly honest, Coleman, when I learned that was such an eye-opener, a heart opener for me, where I said to myself, oh, I could become a yoga teacher. I can now see myself as a yoga teacher, because I actually always struggled with getting on the mat to do the physical practice. Whereas for me, do my best to be a kind soul to other people. I love, like you, love being out in nature. I and my baby, we ground every single day. So he's 16 months. For his whole life, he grounds. And Gaelscoil tasha, so bíonse ag talbhú, is even lam ag talbhú. An má leat ag talbhú.
Tá mé ag talamh ar an cos, clé agus as inniu agus gachlá.
Iontalk, yeah, mahu, misha breshan. Yeah, tasha har bar. It's excellent. It's unreal. It's so good for us. So it's your connection to nature, and it brings us to the 8th limb, which is enlightenment, or again, for me, I would use the word freedom. And then that brings us to the question, what is freedom? Freedom is different for everybody, isn't it? And for me, freedom is all about writing my own script, living my own story. Even when others say, oh God, what does she think she's doing? You mean, as a teacher, she gets summer holidays and she just resigns. Did you hear about that? So sometimes we need to shut out the external noise and do what feels right for our heart. So many times we can be up in our heads, in our brain listening, but our heart has and is a brain as well. And if we listen to our heart, we will always be on the right path. Always be on the right path. And that is what I have learned from yoga. And certain limbs like the meditation aspect, how you treat the world, nature, yourself. I mean, it's I'm a work in progress, but that comes, I believe that comes naturally to me. I'm still working on it. So my intention with Yoga le Guonia is to bring all of that to my classes and just shine my light and show people that this is what I'm doing. I want my son to see that if you have a certain thing that you want to do, you reach for it and you can grab it by your 2 hands and achieve it.
Is there something that you wish that you either knew or did maybe when you were younger? Just talking about, I suppose, living a freer life and listening to your heart. But yeah, is that something that, is there any piece of golden nugget that you would like to share with anyone here today?
So, can you say that again? Is there any piece of golden nugget I'd like to share?
Yeah, in relation to things that you wish you started maybe when you were younger.
In relation, okay, so okay, let me see if I can think of anything. I can't think of anything from when I was younger, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is if there is something, even for anyone that's listening to this, or if I was having a conversation with friends, or if you and I were just, Ag Talamh grounding together on the beach or in a field, what I would say would be if there's something that you want to do, no matter how big or crazy it may sound, you can make it happen. And if we actually go back to the bodybuilding just for a moment, I remember thinking that I could never do that. I didn't know actually females took part in bodybuilding, and there's different categories. But the reason I'm bringing that up is I remember being in the gym, and I hadn't even signed up for a competition, but I remember visualizing myself on the podium winning of regionals. And I remember telling myself and feeling myself training and winning, and telling myself I'm going to get there. So that was my first and real experience of understanding the power of words. So that would be my advice. I have then brought that understanding into my business. So someone told me before, Áine, words are magic. They're called spelling for a reason. Words can cast spells on us, as in if you say to yourself, oh my goodness, I could never do that, I can't do that, I'm terrible, I'm this, I'm that, you will believe that, and that will happen. You will create that future for yourself. Whereas if you have a goal, and if you set your heart, and if your heart is on fire thinking about something, tell yourself you can do it. Sit down, journal. Writing down is so good if there's something that you want to do, and just speak positively about what you're going to do, and just tell yourself it's actually already happened. I just need to take a few steps and to make it actually happen in my reality. And I am proof that it can be done. I resigned from my teaching career for my permanent role, and I'm now able and creating a life where I can stay at home with my baby to raise him, while also growing my business on my online tutoring, Guonia, and then my yoga, Guonia. So it most certainly can be done. And we just need to believe in ourselves and just, write our own story, live your story, and shine your light.
Mom, Colleen, I'm just going to tell you, for someone a second ago that didn't know what they wanted to tell people, that was lovely. Brilliant. No, do you know what I mean? And that's something that a lot of people are, and it's maybe sometimes it's afraid to believe in yourself. But the words that you say, and I'd listen to, and I coaches in the past literally say the words that you say to yourself, because we actually trust ourselves, whatever about a partner, a friend, a family member, whatever we think literally is the be all and end all. So it's really important to literally say positive words, positive affirmations, if you want to say that, or journal in a positive manner that literally has you on a positive. Keep saying the word positive, because that's what people need to be, more positive. And that only comes from surrounding yourself with, I'm going to say, the right type of people, which is key.
Yes, that is so true. And just speaking of affirmations, I actually have, or my little boy has, my little baby has, he got a gorgeous picture present of affirmations printed out. I am kind, I am strong, I am enough, which is really important, isn't it? I am enough. Gaelscoil is Laura May. I am enough. And it's there at the top of our stairs. So every morning we read a few, we pick a few and read them together. And he loves it. He smiles. He comes out of the bedroom, he looks over and he's waiting for them. But those words that are positive are so important. Of course, it's important to acknowledge when we're not feeling okay. That's important as well. But in terms of any goal that you have, just, put your phone away. Don't watch the news. I actually haven't watched the news in years. Or first thing in the morning, I do my best to not look at my phone. I try and go 1 hour without looking at my phone, Armagin in the morning. And I can feel already so much lighter when that happens, because you can be bombarded with texts or emails or this or that. So you have the power to choose your life. And someone once told me, someone very special to me, life can be beautiful again. You know, if you're ever I was going through something, and she said that to me, like, and it almost, she was holding space, but it always also gave me the power over and control over my life. Instead of life will be, I wasn't being told something, I was handed the power to have control of my own life. So life can be beautiful if you choose that it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and that's it. We get to choose the foods we eat. We get to choose who we listen to. We get to choose what we do on a daily basis, and definitely not first thing in the morning picking up the stress ball, as I like to call it. That is,
Stress ball, Sinead, that's it.
get out of it yeah, and we all like the both feeling you work online, and the idea, and a lot of people don't work online, but the idea is the first thing we reach for. Don't reach for something else, whether it's a journal and or a piece of exercise that you can really do in itself. Áine, I'm tell you what, you're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I'm Mahan Colleen for Kind Craig August Bearla here in you. But I want you, before we wrap up this, I'm going to say podcast, where's the best place for people to reach out to you, or more so mention the likes of your social media handles if you have either Facebook and Instagram, and I'll be putting it here on the show notes as well.
Okay, Gur Míle Mága Coleman. So my website is www.Gaeláine, Gael, A for the INE, Gaeláine.com. So that has loads of information about my online teaching classes. So that will be the Irish language. And I'm currently updating it. So hopefully, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, this podcast, and hopefully when it comes out, it'll be updated. And then I use Instagram for my yoga. So that is, oh goodness, where do the underscores go? Yoga le Guonia. So yoga le Guonia. Yoga _ le _ Guonia. And that has everything about my yoga and upcoming events, etc.
Perfect. Well, I'll put all those in the show notes so people literally just click the link down below here if you're listening to it on YouTube and or Spotify, and you go directly over to the likes of Áine's page. And I always end these shows by saying stay tuned, stay classy, and get on that good stuff.